Wominjeka everyone, Wominjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover, Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moorabbin Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Wominjeka everyone, Wominjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Morley Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
Welcome everyone to the Council meeting on the 23rd of July 2024, which I now declare open at 6:30pm. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public in the gallery who have joined us this evening, as well as those watching at home on the internet. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that their presence may be recorded. And I ask that mobile phones be switched to silent and that personal video and audio recordings are not allowed under Governance Rule 75.1. Moonee Valley respectfully acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to spirits, ancestors, elders and community members, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 2 is apologies and leave of absence. I note that Councillor Sypek and Councillor Bedio are apologies for the meeting this evening. Are there any leave of absence requests? No. Item 3 is the confirmation of minutes. Can I please have a mover and seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 9th of July 2024 be confirmed? It's moved Councillor Hodgson, seconded Councillor Sharp. Would you like to speak to your motion? No. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 4 is declarations of conflict of interest. Does any councillor wish to flag any conflict of interest in any item? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I note that there's a public question tonight on a matter that I've previously declared a material conflict of interest on, but I've received advice that because our public question time's not a forum for discussion or decision making, there's not a requirement to declare a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor wish to flag a conflict? If not, we move on to presentations. Do we have any presentations tonight? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge the Multilingual Reference Group who had their final meeting today, and we had a lunch to thank them for their contribution to that advisory group. I think that the feedback that's been provided to different departments within the organisation has been really useful, and some of the impacts of the advice was explained to the group today. And one I think that is worth mentioning is that prior to the group meeting, our telephone line, our customer service telephone line, didn't have an option for people to speak to an interpreter or a translator when they rang, and it was something that was pointed out by members of the advisory group. That's now been put in place so that when people ring, the first option that they hear is around whether they need an interpreter, and we've had 905 requests for an interpreter in the last 12 months on using that service, which is about 75 per month, which is 2 to 3 per day. So that's a terrific direct impact from us engaging with community members, taking on board feedback, listening to something that we could improve and making that improvement.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Are there any other presentations? I had a quick one, councillors, on as part of NAIDOC Week celebrations. There were quite a few events on which several councillors participated in, but I want to highlight 2 little long walks that occurred during the week. So there was Thursday the 11th of July, myself and Councillor Isa partook in the little long walk at Eston Fields, and there was a lot of community organisations there. It was an absolutely freezing morning, and I think no one walked away without numb toes and fingers, but it was really fantastic to see such a great turnout, particularly on the 20th anniversary of the long walk through Michael Long and the foundation. I'd also like to acknowledge that 2 days later, I joined Councillor Byrne and Sypek at the Airport West Football Club, who also did a little long walk, and it was always a great event. This year we had Graham Briggs, who performed a welcome to country, as well as forcing the club president, Jake Crawford, to have a go at playing the didgeridoo, which is always great fun for everyone involved. So I'd like to thank everyone involved in both of those events and it was a fantastic NAIDOC week as we walk towards reconciliation and treaty. So thank you. Item 6 is petitions and joint letters. Are there any tonight, councillors? Item 7 is public question time, and we have 3 tonight. The first 2 are from Brian Duggan, who is here this evening. So Brian, I'll ask you to come up to the podium to ask your first question.
There we go. Good evening, councillors. Thank you for your time. The first question, at the previous council meeting on the 9th of July, I arrived at 6:30 and waited out in the waiting room and could not get into chambers until 7:05. Respectfully, why did this happen, and what is the council doing to prevent this happening again?
Thank you for your question, Brian. I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Brian, for raising this with Council through the Mayor. We sincerely apologise for your experience, Brian, at the last council meeting. We welcome members of the public to attend council meetings. Unfortunately, due to staff oversight, the access to the chambers was not made available on time at the last council meeting. We have now taken steps to ensure the public access to the chambers is a part of the standard procedures prior to the council meetings. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And Brian, your second question?
The second question. So at the last council meeting, there were 3 options put forward regarding the level crossing removal, which were presented to council, which were then narrowed down to 2. As councillors are aware, I currently have 5 Freedom of Information requests before VCAT involving the removal of these crossings. And while I'm not at liberty to say which, I know that one of the options remaining of the 2 that you narrowed down to are not even being considered by the level crossing removal project. Has council contacted the level crossing removal project to identify which of the options they are considering, and where are they with that position?
Thank you, Brian. I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Brian. Through the Mayor. Brian, thank you for your question and ongoing interest in this matter. Council officers have previously liaised with representatives from various Victoria government departments to obtain all publicly available information relevant to the potential removal of the existing level crossings at Parker Street / Holmes Road and Park Street in Moonee Ponds. At the last council meeting, it was noted that the existing level crossings removal options at Parker Street, Holmes Road and Park Street, Moonee Ponds have significant impacts on the community, do not meet the thresholds for priority removal, and are therefore unlikely to be delivered by the Victorian government in the foreseeable future. Should the information become available in the future that changes this outlook, Council will reassess its options for advocacy at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Brian, for your questions.
Thank you, councillors.
Have a good night. The third and final question is from Aileen Ashford, who isn't here tonight. Aileen asks, is the council rebuilding the Coronation Kindergarten in Rosebery Street, Ascot Vale in 2025 to expand the rooms and numbers of children? If so, when will residents receive a public notice regarding this? Thank you, Aileen, for your question. I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Aileen. Through the Mayor. In a media release in April this year, Council informed the community of the announcement of more than $20 million in Victoria government funding for upgrades to 5 Moonee Valley kindergartens, including the Coronation Kindergarten. The redevelopment of the Coronation Kindergarten will increase the capacity of the current single-room facility to a larger, custom-designed new double-room facility, increasing its capacity by 25 children. Construction begins in January 2025 and is due for completion by January 2027. The kindergarten redevelopment information has been shared on Council's website with the link promoted through Council's social media channels. In addition, a flyer containing the news was also distributed to the immediate catchment areas, approximately 6,000 households surrounding the 5 kinder facilities, with a QR code linked to the Council's kindergarten redevelopment webpage. In the coming month, local residents will receive direct communication to ensure they are informed of this project's progress. any related activities and opportunities for community engagement. For more information, please visit the Council's Kindergarten Redevelopment webpage. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Aileen, for your question. It's something we're extremely excited about in upgrading our kinders. Question 8 is reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports as delegates? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I do, as the representative from the MTF, I have circulated the meeting report from the July meeting. To note, the July keynote speaker was Ms Helen Rowe, who presented the Decarbonising Transport report. Councillor O'Reilly from Marybeck again reminded members of his proposal to establish a transport accessibility advocacy group. And also to note is that on the 22nd of August there is an EV webinar between 9:30 and 11:30, which is open to councillors and officers of member councils, but please remember to register for anyone who is interested. There was also a councillor updates from Melbourne, Melton and Monash, and for a full report, councillors and exec can check their emails.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Item 9 is reports. 9.1, endorsement of the community grants policy. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Very happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Isa.
Thanks. So this is coming back to us after some community consultation, and there's been a range of feedback, but general support for our new grant stream, which we've inserted following a situation earlier this year where we had an organisation that was very much in need of some support that we weren't able to provide because we didn't have correct processes to enable that support to be provided. We now do, so that's excellent. The criteria around the new grant stream is that it's an organisation that provides critical food, welfare or emergency assistance, that the financial support be for urgent and unforeseen circumstances, and that they haven't received a similar grant in the previous 12 months. We've put $50,000 towards this grant stream in our budget. The grant stream is open all the time, not just during the periods of our grant applications. So I hope that organisations in the future that do require some urgent support to provide that critical care for for residents in the municipality are able to make use of that, and I'm really pleased that we've brought this to fruition.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. I think this is a wonderful addition to our grants program. I think we all know that life can be a little bit unpredictable, and so to have an option for community organisations to be able to seek some financial assistance from council in extraordinary circumstances, which can't be allocated within other council business or other grant streams, is great. And I think community feedback on this was overwhelmingly positive, which is also showing really good support from the community to be a little bit more flexible with our grant funding, which will be wonderful.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, that because we discussed the endorsement of the last grants, just in regards to all of the geographical and demographic areas being represented, the removal of the word proportionately, I think it still will cover what we intend, because we're still keeping the spread of the funding across the municipality to ensure all geographical and demographic areas are removing the word proportionally, but still keeping the fact that they'll be represented. So I think that that's a very realistic, change. And I note that it would be almost impossible to make it proportionally. So I agree with this change.
Yeah, thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.2 is Neighbourhood Character Study Update. The officer's recommendation is now on the screen. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Iso. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, this report acquits one of our council plan and health plan initiatives for this year, or sorry, just the end of last year, 30 June, which is great and gives us a really high completion rate of those. It's a really important one, and I had some notes on sort of some of the technical things that are in the update, and it is, I found it a really interesting read as someone who has had to use the neighbourhood character study in making our decisions on planning matters. But the technical parts are probably a little bit boring, so I'll try and just summarise what I found useful out of the officer's work here, which is a really big piece of work, because neighbourhood character is a really nebulous sort of idea, I think. And when I came onto council, one of the things I really was keen to do was to protect neighbourhood character, and what that is in different parts of the municipality is a really hard thing to define. Before, during COVID lockdown, I was doing a lot of walking the streets and found those old most beautiful street signs. And I think in my mind that was what neighbourhood character was. It was those very cohesive looking streets which, were all the houses were built in the same era. And essentially that's sort of what the heritage protection is. We have some streets that are really intact because they represent a period of the build. Neighbourhood character is something a bit different, and when we have sort of infill and development and renewal of housing stock in different streets, I guess neighbourhood character is supposed to guide them responding appropriately to the context. And I don't really know what that means, but this report really does a good job of showing how VCAT and our planning officers and council try and use different characteristics to help define that, so that developers who are, designing new houses will respond appropriately to the context. And it's things like setbacks and appropriate built form and things. But ultimately what the update finds is that there have been some difficulties in the way that our 2012 study have described that have made it difficult to use our neighbourhood character study in our decision making. And some of the criticisms from VCAT have been around, the precincts haven't really been all that well defined, and there's been enough change in the neighbourhood context that the site context is quite different to what the neighbourhood character precinct describes, so it hasn't been that useful for decision making. And another criticism was that the neighbourhood character study is sort of like an appended part of the planning scheme. It's an incorporated document, not embedded into the different zones and schedules. So those are a couple of the ways that we think we can improve that when we move towards developing a housing strategy and improving the way our planning scheme operates for us. Another one that the planning officers came up with, and it was looking at how we can encourage canopy tree planting on private land, which is something that we desperately need to be able to reach our tree canopy target. One of the suggestions that was made was a lot of new developments, to meet the garden, landscaping area requirement, they have lots of pockets across the site. And one of the things that we might consider doing is having a requirement or a suggestion to consolidate those into a larger landscaping area so that we can encourage some canopy tree planting. So that was sort of a tangible suggestion in the update that I guess my brain latched onto as something I could envisage. But it's a really great piece of work. It's going to be so helpful to inform our future direction for responding to the housing statement and the state planning policies that require growth in particular areas, but making sure that we're putting forward a preferred neighbourhood character and protecting what our residents love about where they live.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Iso.
Thanks. I just wanted to add that this piece of work takes place within a sort of a larger umbrella of work that is directed towards coming up with our housing strategy and our housing plan, which will try to answer the question of how we are going to build around 2,000, or not us personally, but how there are going to be about 2,000 homes built in Moonee Valley per year till about 2050, which is sort of what the the anticipated growth is that we need to plan for. So it's one of the pieces in a sort of a larger scheme of work. And I also wanted to acknowledge and thank the Community Advisory Panel, the most recent Community Advisory Panel, for whom this was the topic of under discussion. They were looking at what a city with housing for all looks like, and they brought to us a number of recommendations, some of which are detailed in the report. But really, the discussions that they had were to many of the points that Councillor Hodgson was speaking to around how we make sure that we combine housing with green spaces and canopy trees, and how we manage infill in a way that also leads to good quality of living and sustainable outcomes. So again, thanks to the members of that advisory panel and for their thinking that's contributed to this and will go on contributing to the housing strategy. I also just wanted to note that there are some really interesting maps in this document. There are maps around where planning permits have been issued over the past 10 years, what the different types of density and housing and canopy experiences there are across our municipality. So if you're into maps, this is a great document. And the other point I just wanted to pick up on, which I was quite interested by, which was that the study looks at where there's a map of subdivision activity in Moonee Valley, which I think is really useful in terms of seeing where that infill activity is going on. But the point that it then, the report then, or the study makes, is that conventional planning pathways for infill housing do not always lead to desirable outcomes, that in that subdivision people are trying to cram in townhouses, leaving little room for canopy trees, and it's dominated by car parks. And so what we're trying to do is work out where the housing can go that can actually lead to better outcomes than what we're getting at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.3 is Audit and Risk Committee minutes of 17 June 2024 meeting and biannual report. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Ooh, Councillor Hodgson got it that time, I think. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. The Audit and Risk Committee assists Moonee Valley City Council in fulfilling its responsibilities relating to financial and performance reporting, risk management, corporate governance and internal control systems. This motion receives and notes the confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 17th of June 2024 and also receives and notes the biannual report. The Audit and Risk Committee biannual report is a high-level overview summary of the matters the committee has addressed in the reporting period in discharging its responsibilities under its charter. The report we are receiving and noting details activities undertaken by the committee for the period the 1st of January 2024 to the 30th of June 2024. Some of those highlights were, and they're detailed in the report, are a review of completed internal audit reports, a significant reduction in the number of open internal audit actions, a review and approval of the strategic internal audit plan, consideration of the audit strategy memorandum for the audit of the annual financial report and annual performance statement for the year ending 30 June 2024, a review of AGO's interim management letter for the year ending 30 June 2024, regular updates on the implementation of the risk management system, including an overview of the development of Council's strategic risk register and the planned approach to review operational risks. The committee also confirmed that all applicable obligations required under the Charter were addressed during the reporting period. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I don't really have much to add. I do really enjoy being a member of the Audit and Risk Committee, much like Councillor Isa's presentation earlier on the multilingual reference group. Audit and Risk, when we review those audits, it just is a really good snapshot of the ways that we're identifying improvements and taking steps to address them. One thing as well, last week or earlier this week, there was a global Microsoft outage, and it just rang a bell with me, and I think you'll note in the minutes that there was a discussion on what would happen if there was a Microsoft outage, and it felt very prescient. So clearly we've got some high calibre independent members who are raising very pertinent issues, and we're in good hands. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Item 9.4 is Audit and Risk Committee Charter Review. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with a small change. I'll just read the whole motion, might be easier. That Council resolves to endorse the updated Audit and Risk Committee Charter, which incorporates changes recommended by management and the Audit and Risk Committee at their 17 June 2024 meeting, with the following change to the first point of section 9 to read as follows: minutes of committee meetings, including confidential minutes of members only sessions, will be provided to council at the first available council meeting following each committee meeting. The process to confirm minutes is outlined below under section 10, Chief Executive Officer responsibilities.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. The charter needs to be updated by the 12th or the 21st, can't remember, of October this year, which will be when we're in caretaker period, hence it coming to council earlier than that. There's been a process whereby the charter's been reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee, and they've discussed and suggested to us various changes. Some of those changes are around the outlining what quorum is, just outlining the purpose, streamlining the charter a little bit better, and also providing for the possibility of council appointing the chair for up to 3 years in an additional third term, should that be necessary to allow for the skill set, the appropriate skill set of the committee. The change that I've suggested in the amendment just now is just around making sure there are minutes taken of all aspects of the committee meeting. There's been a practice whereby there's been a members-only committee meeting where there hasn't been any minutes taken, so they haven't been provided to us. And I just note that under the Local Government Act, there is a requirement that the CEO must ensure preparation and maintenance of agendas, minutes and reports of the Audit and Risk Committee. And it's always puzzled me as to why there would be one section of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting that was not minuted. So hopefully that will be rectified, and it will now be minuted, and those minutes will come to us. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, as with the previous item, the Audit and Risk Committee seeks continuous improvement in our organisation, and this update to the charter is no exception to that. So happy to support this with the amendment Councillor Isa has moved.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Item 9.5 is proposed lease Optus Cliff Whitworth Reserve. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with a slight change in point B, that instead of 4 weeks, it reads 6 weeks.
Thank you. Councillors aware of what's been moved? Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. These ones are always a little bit tricky because they're not necessarily, loved by the community, especially installing anything new. But this is an existing infrastructure in Whitworth Park. I'll talk about the amendment that was made. This is undergoing community engagement to inform and consult with the community. Thank you for your input, Mayor, that we think that it's a good idea to increase it from 4 to 6 weeks. It's just to make sure we do actually capture, if people are away or whatnot, people's thoughts in regards to this new lease. Looking forward to that coming back. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 10 is notices of motion. However, we have none on the agenda. Item 11 is urgent business. Do we have any urgent business, councillors? If not, item 12 is confidential reports. However, we have none. So therefore, we come to item 13, close the meeting. Short, sharp. I close the meeting at 7:01. Thanks for joining us.